Good morning. My name is Penny Masheri. I'm actually Deputy City Administrator here in the City of Smyrna. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order of the License and Variance Board. It is 10 a.m. and today is December 14th. To my left, I'm joined by Bo Jones, Assistant Director of Public Works, and to his left is Mr. Richard Garland, our Director of Parks and Recreation. We have quite a full agenda this morning, a lot of items, so bear with us as we kind of make our way through. We're going to start with item 2A, license 2022-13, privilege license, agent change request, license 2022-13, beer, wine, and liquor retail pouring, 2995 Atlanta Road Southeast, Suite 300, Bad Daddy's International, LLC, does business as Bad Daddy's Burger Bar with Jody Boyles Myers as agent. Is the applicant here today? Great, if you would come up to the podium, please. Good morning.
Morning.
Can you state your name for the record?
Jody Boyles Myers.
Wonderful, thank you. So you're here today for a change as agent,
Yes.
correct? Tell us a little bit about what you do at Bad Daddy's.
I'm the general manager,
Okay.
so I oversee the operations of the restaurant
Wonderful. And how often are you on site at the restaurant?
5 days a week.
Okay. Have you served as an agent before?
No,
No, okay, first time. If you guys are going through the process of verifying alcohol, how do you guys do that as a team?
we request photo ID from anyone ordering.
Okay. How are your employees trained for that process?
They go through an electronic and an in-person training program that lasts about a week.
Okay. I do have the certificate that you have taken the required training and have gone through the PD background check. Does anyone on the board have any questions for the applicant?
No, ma'am.
Just one final thing, and that is our PD takes alcohol licenses and the enforcement of those very seriously. So just acknowledge that you know that at any time our guys can come in and check your staff.
Gotcha.
So it's something we take very seriously.
Okay.
Unless you guys have any other questions, we can go ahead and I'll ask for a motion.
Make a motion to approve privileged licensed agent change request LIC 2022-13, beer, wine, and liquor retail pouring at 2995 Atlanta Road Southeast, Suite 300, Bad Daddy's International, LLC, doing business at Bad Daddy's Burger Bar with Jody Boyles Myers as agent.
Second.
This item has been properly moved and seconded. Can I get a vote, please? Item 2A is approved by a vote of 3-0. Thank you very much for being here today, and thanks for doing business in the city.
All right. Thank you so much.
Item 2B, 2022-517, is a public hearing and variance request for V22-064 to increase the minimum impervious surface area from 35% to 39.78%. Lot 556, 3341 Pretty Branch Drive. Applicant is Luke Burbank. This item has been requested to be tabled into the January 11th, 2023 License and Variance Board meeting. Can I get a motion to table?
So moved.
Second.
This item has been properly moved and seconded. Please vote. Item 2B has been tabled until January 11th, 2023 by a vote of 3-0. Item 2C, 2022-543, it's a public hearing and variance request for V22-069, allow an increase in the maximum impervious coverage from 35% to 51.6%. Lot 446, 0.09 acres, 2306 Kissing Tree Lane. Applicant is Alicia Incalade. I probably got that wrong, sorry if I butchered it. This item will also be tabled into the January 11th, 2023 License and Variance Board meeting. Can I get a motion to table?
So moved.
Second.
Item has been properly moved and seconded. If you would please vote. Okay, item 2C has been tabled until the January 11th, 2023 meeting by a vote of 3-0. Our next item is item 2D, 2022-611, public hearing variance request for V22-071, allow a 6-foot wooden property privacy fence in front yard of a corner lot, land lot 413, 0.43 acres at 871 Concord Road. The applicant is John Huffey. Mr. Stobbs, if you would please provide us the background.
Good morning, Joey Stobbs, Planner 2 with Community Development. The applicant's requesting a variance at 871 Concord Road to allow a 6-foot wooden fence in a front yard on a corner lot. The subject parcel is a little under half an acre at the intersection of Concord Road and Lust Drive. Lust Drive is essentially just an access road to the Concord Village Shopping Center. So applicant is wanting to open a new restaurant there and put the fence up to provide protection from pedestrians entering their property. I believe they've had some vandalism problems already. So Community Development recommends approval of the request with 3 conditions. That it's conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan. 2, that the fence must be installed outside of the city right-of-way. And 3, the fence must begin a minimum of 15 feet from the driveway, which I believe their plan meets all those requirements, but the city engineers wanted those in the record.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stobbs. Members of the board, do you guys have any questions for staff? Okay. Is the applicant here? Yes, if you would please come up to the podium and state your name for the record.
Good morning. I'm John Huffey.
Wonderful. Thank you for coming today. Mr. Stobbs has kind of given us an overview of what the variance request is. Do you have any other things you'd like to add? to
No,
the
we've
board?
spoken about it, and I just need to make sure I haven't put in the not in the right of way and just kind of figure that calculation out. But everything else, I'm familiar with.
Board members, do you guys have any questions for the applicant?
No, at this time.
I'm kind of curious what kind of restaurant's going in.
Burger Crush. We're doing fresh crushed burgers. I own Jackson or Cadell. Actually, I sold to one of my managers a couple years ago. So I'm in the restaurant business, and we're going to do just burgers, fries, shakes, everything fresh.
Oh, well, I could approve this if a Jax was coming in, but if a Jax is not coming in, I'm out.
How you doing, Richard?
Oh, my goodness gracious.
I lived
Well,
there
thank you.
about
We
4 days
we
a
love
week.
hearing about new restaurants coming to the city. This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone here to speak in favor or against the item, if you would, please come to the podium and state your name for the record. Looks like it's a pro-burger crowd.
And I don't have to get up and walk around.
With that, we'll go ahead, and without any public comment, we'll go ahead and I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve variance request V22-071, allow a 6-foot wooden privacy fence in front yard of corner lot, lot 413, located at 871 Concord Road, John Huffey.
Second.
This item has been properly moved and seconded. If you would, please vote. Item 2D has been approved by a vote of 3-0. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing your new restaurant.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Item 2E, 2022-612. This is a public hearing and variance request, V22-072. Allow rear setback reduction from 30 feet to 28.6 feet, lot 600, 0.34 acres at 2101 Jared Place. Applicant is Deborah Crittenden. Mr. Stobbs, will you please provide us the background?
The applicant is requesting a variance at 2101 Jared Place to reduce the rear setback from 30 feet to 28.6 feet. They're proposing to build a sunroom on the property at the back of the property, and due to the geometry of the lot, a small corner of that sunroom will encroach the rear setback. Community Development recommends approval with one condition, that it's conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan submitted with the application.
Okay, thank you. Board members, you guys have any questions for staff?
No.
Okay. Is the applicant here? Wonderful. If you would, please come to the podium and state your name for the record.
I'm Tom Crittenden.
And Deborah Crittenden.
Wonderful. Thank you guys for being here today. Mr. Stobbs has provided us a summary of what the variance request is. Do you guys have anything you'd like to add for the board?
I don't think so.
No.
I think that's
Okay.
accurate. Yes.
Wonderful. This item is a public hearing. If anyone has any, is in favor or against and would like to come speak, please come to the podium and state your name for the record. Seeing none, I do have one final question to ask you guys. Mr. Stobbs did ask that there was a standard condition and stipulation. I just want to make sure you guys fully understand what that is, and you're good to go. Yes.
We won't be changing the plans.
Perfect. With that, I will go ahead and entertain a motion.
Motion to approve variance request V22-072, allow rear setback reduction from 30 feet to 28.6 feet, land lot 600.34 acres at 2101 Jared Place. Deborah Crittenden, applicant.
Second.
This item has been properly moved and seconded. If you would please vote. Item 2F has been approved by a vote of 3-0. Thank you guys for coming today and hope you have a happy holiday.
Thank you. You too.
All right, item 2G, 2022-614 is a public hearing and variance request. V2207, what? I skipped one? I skipped F? Oh, I wrote on the wrong, my apologies. We'll go alphabetically in order today and not just skip around. Okay, item 2F, 2022 is a public hearing and variance request for V22-073. Allow a 5-foot split rail fence in front yard, land lot 383, 1.81 acres at 703 Austin Drive. The applicant is Zane Miller. Mr. Stobbs, will you please provide us the background?
Applicant is requesting a variance at 703 Austin Drive to allow a 5-foot split rail fence in the front yard. The fence has already been constructed, and due to the location of the fence, a portion of it is within the front yard setback. Therefore, they need a variance to keep the fence as it is. It's not a corner lot, but part of the fence is in the front yard. It doesn't create any sight distance visibility issues. Staff has recommended approval with 2 conditions. That standard condition number 1, that it's conditioned upon development of the property in substantial compliance, and 2, that the fence area within the front yard shall have the woven wire behind the split rails. We've discussed that with the applicant, and he's supportive of those conditions.
Thank you. Staff, or board, do you guys have any questions for staff? Okay. Is the applicant here? Please come forward to the podium and state your name for the record.
Good morning, Zane Miller.
Mr. Miller, I apologize. I tried to skip you a minute ago. I wasn't intentional, I swear. Is there anything you'd like to add for the board?
Oh, Mr. Stobbs outlined it well.
Okay. He did detail 2 conditions. If the variance is approved today, you're comfortable with those conditions and are aware of them, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This item is a public hearing. If there's anyone here who'd like to speak in favor or against, if you would please make your way to the podium. Good morning. If you would please state your name.
Good morning.
Address for the record, please.
My name is Mike McNabb. I live at 750 Austin Drive. And we are the only house directly across the street from this property at 703. I strongly object to the approval of this variance for 5 substantive reasons. First of all, this is the only house on this street attempting to build a fence in the front yard. It is totally out of character with the rest of the neighborhood. Indeed, it is totally out of character with all the homes in Austin Lake, Austin Manor, Maple Shade, and in the entire Bennett Woods neighborhoods. In contrast, my neighbor just 2 doors up the street at 753 Austin Drive also just built a new fence, and they respected the community standard by not building a fence in the front yard. Secondly, the fence is built out of wood posts and rails and finished with hog wire. So what we now look at resembles a pig pen. I ask each of you to reflect on whether this would be the appropriate view across the street from where you live, if you live in the city limits of Smyrna. If you approve this variance, you will have set the neighborhood streetscape standard much, much lower. Third, to add insult to injury, Mr. Miller has his hog wire stapled on the street side of the fencing. So the finished side faces inward, and I and my neighbors have to look at the unfinished side of this with no consideration for the neighborhood view. Fourth, our councilman, Mr. Welch, spoke to Mr. Miller about the need to obtain a variance for this fencing during construction. Despite this, Mr. Miller arrogantly continued with the construction after this conversation, including building a double-gated driveway entrance Apparently, his view is that he has the right to do anything he wants, and this board will simply approve it after the fact. You are our community standards. Finally, my fifth substantive reason for objecting to this hog pen front fence yard is the specious reasoning Mr. Miller used in the letter he sent to his neighbors after he had completed the fence. Let me say that once again. After he had completed the fence. He states that it is the mere sight of coyotes in the neighborhood that forced him to do this. Hogwash. My wife and I have lived in our house for over 30 years, and for that 30-year period, we have encountered coyotes every single year. We have never had a problem with them. We have had cats the entire time. Never had a problem with them. We go on walks once it's dark. I see them after dark. Never had one even attempt to approach me. If coyotes were truly a threat in this neighborhood, I and every one of my neighbors would have already installed a front yard fence. Oh, and by the way, we used to have a mother red-tailed fox who would deliver a litter of pups every spring out of the den she would dig in our creek bank. Never ever had a problem with those either. To be fair, there are 6 homes on North Cooper Lake Road that have fences in the front yard. However, these fences are wrought iron or black aluminum picket fences that are architecturally appropriate. They do not look like livestock pens the way this one does. You should never approve this style of fence for use in any front yard, in any home in the city of Smyrna, because we have standards. Thank you for upholding our standards.
Thank you.
Morning.
I'm Carlene McNabb. I live at 750 Austin Drive, right across the street from Mr. Miller. Take my glasses off so I can read. When realtors sell homes on our street in our neighborhood, they describe our houses as the house in the woods. That's because we have a lot of nature. We have a running creek that's spring-fed. There's animals, deer, foxes, old trees, which some are Civil War trees that have been there for years and years. And yes, we have coyotes. Mr. Miller installed an agricultural farm fence. That's the word for it. And it has a critter wiring. The critter wiring is used to keep livestock, goats, hogs, and chickens inside. He attached the critter wiring outside the fence for us neighbors to look at, and it has an unfinished look. This type of fence does not beautify our high-valued neighborhood. He didn't consider our neighborhood trends or our aesthetics. Many of the houses on our street are well over $500,000 homes. Mr. Miller's is well over $1 million home. For these types of homes, farm fences do not add to the aesthetics. Good neighbor fences, like the black wrought iron, add value and beauty to a home, not a farmer's fence. And farmer's fence is really not up to the standards of the neighborhood. And I understand that Mr. Miller wanted to match his front yard fence with the backyard fence that he installed, which is the same type. But I really didn't notice his backyard fence until he cut down all his trees along his creek on the creek side of his property. If you check our community website, which is called nextdoor.com, and you read what people write, people have described coyote sightings in every neighborhood of Smyrna. They're all over Smyrna. They just stay away from them. There's never been a report of a child, and we've raised our kids for almost 30 years in this area. Coyotes are just part of the nature that is part of our house in the woods. The raccoons are a problem, and I know the raccoons have climbed fences, and they have gotten chickens from the previous owner of 703 Austin Drive, so that is a major problem if you have livestock. So I object to this front yard fence, its height. I object to the critter wiring, the construction materials. I feel it devalues my property. And it looks, on his property, to us, it looks cheaper, ugly. And this type of fence belongs on a farm, not in a high-class neighborhood. I'm gonna keep Smyrna beautiful. I've been there for 10 years, and for half of that time, I've been the vice chairman. So my goal is always to beautify Smyrna and to look for other ways to beautify it. I rarely have to come to address issues to city council or to this board. But this is an important issue for our neighborhood to maintain our status of living among nature. So it's just not aesthetically pleasing. And I just ask you to deny his variance and uphold the standards of Smyrna. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, do you guys have any questions?
Can I ask a question to the two folks that made public comments?
You may.
Is it the style of the fence or the fence at all?
It is both. The fact that there's a fence in the front yard is inconsistent with neighborhood standards.
Okay.
It gives it a compound look. But adding insult to injury is it's the livestock hog wire that he's used in the split rail. And gentlemen, you know what I'm talking about. It looks like something that you keep livestock in. It doesn't look like, so it's inappropriate for a front yard fence. I don't have a problem with any of my neighbors, including Mr. Miller, using that style of fence on the side and the backyard. Entirely appropriate, but not for the front street side scape of a house. It is inappropriate. It's inappropriate on this street, and it's inappropriate on any home in the city limits of Smyrna. It is not a cityscape.
Mr. Miller, would you have anything you'd like to add to that? I give him an opportunity.
I just wanted to add that a black wrought iron fence looks very nice, and there are some in Smyrna in the front yard. But hog wire on a black wrought iron fence would do no good. Just a plain black wrought iron fence would look nice.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Garland asked a question of the McNabbs who were speaking previously. I guess I would let you respond if you'd like an opportunity to do that. Seems only reasonable to allow you that opportunity.
Sure. Well, the McNabbs have shared is certainly an opinion. I certainly meet there are no specific style requirements within the ordinances. One of the stipulations in the variance that I was to follow is to cover up the wire mesh on the opposite side, on the city side, on the facing sides. That's in the plans, it's in the works, we're waiting on it. The fence right now is currently unpainted. It will be painted as well, since because of the pressure treater, you have to give it enough time to cure and be painted. It matches 400 linear feet of my existing fence. That's simply the style that we went with, just so that we wouldn't have two styles of fence. That's the reason it's built that way. That's the reason it has the same style. As far as I'm concerned, we continue to meet the ordinances as they're stated, and although they have an opinion, they have the right to have that opinion.
I have a quick question, and that is, does your neighborhood have any type of community? Do you guys have an HOA or any standards that are part of
For the
that?
street,
Okay.
there is no HOA. And on Austin Drive, on that side of the street, there's 1,200 linear feet of 6-foot, privacy fence along that street from Grace Meadows. So, I mean, I'm not quite sure if there's a height problem there either, but.
That's a rear lot fence, not a front yard fence.
Mr. Stobbs, question for you. The material that the fence is made of is currently allowed per our city code, is that correct?
The issue is the height of the fence. And the front yard can only be 4 feet, and the proposal is 5 feet.
So the need for a variance in this instance doesn't have to do with the material. The variance is simply because of the height. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And it being in the front yard, two things.
But that's because of the height regulation, correct? So you can have a fence in your front yard, but it can't be over 4 feet.
Correct.
So the variance we're looking at here is not to do with the materials or even whether there's a fence that's permitted. It's that the fence that's there is higher than it should be by code,
That's what my understanding is.
correct, Mr. Stobbs?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Do you guys have any other questions?
Correct, and as long as the woven wire is on the outside, which he is planning to do on the 5-foot fence. So whether it's 5 feet or 4 feet, the woven wire has to be on the backside.
Okay. Additional questions? If you guys don't have any further questions, I think we probably need to go ahead and
Yeah.
have a motion of some sort.
I'm going to motion that we table this for further discussion.
Okay?
That we table variance request V 22-073, allow a 5-foot split rail fence in the front yard on land lot 383, 1.81 acres, 703 Austin Drive, Zane Miller applicant. I just think we ought to table this for a little further discussion, maybe bring it back at the next meeting if that's okay with everybody.
Of course, I have an objection to that because I meet the requirements. The board already recommended approval. There is no style requirements within the ordinance.
There is a height requirement.
That's the reason I say style requirement, and the variance is the height, and that was recommended for approval.
Okay. Thank you for your comment. I'm going to go ahead and let the board, if you have a second.
Second the motion to table.
We have a motion on the floor to table this item. If you guys would, go ahead and please vote. Okay, this item has passed to be tabled at 3-0. So I guess my direction would be to meet further with staff and see if we can come to some sort of, I don't know. I guess have
The
more
January
discussion.
11th hearing?
That would be, yeah, that'd be fine. Do we need to table it to a date certain?
Yes.
Okay. Do you need his motion amended to table it, or did he already have that in the motion? Okay. That it's a date certain? Okay, so move to January 11th. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, I guess we'll move on to the next item.
Yeah.
Correct, January 11th,
Is there going to
2023.
be any communication between now and then from staff to me, or how does this work? Very good. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Okay. Now we're on to item 2G, correct? Okay. Item 2G, 2022-614 is a public hearing and variance request, V22-074, to allow a boarding facility within 200 feet of residential property, land lot 632, on 0.41 acres at 1717 Spring Street. Applicant is Max Fiedelson. Mr. Stobbs, if you would please provide us the background.
This is variance request at 1717 Spring Street to allow animal boarding within 200 feet of residential property. The property is zoned general commercial, which allows dog boarding, provided it's no closer than 200 feet to residential property. This property is approximately 40 feet from a residential property to the east and 130 feet to the north. on the east, the residential structure is probably 70 feet away from the property line. They're proposing to provide insulation in the building, to provide noise reduction. We've recommended approval with 3 conditions: that there will be no outside boarding of dogs or outdoor dog runs on the property, that only 1 dog should be allowed outside at any time and must be supervised by an employee, and that the structure be insulated. These are basically the same conditions we applied to the dog boarding facility to the east, with one exception, that we required this to have no outdoor dog runs, because we've had issues with that facility and nuisances due to their outdoor dog runs.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stops. Members of the board, do you guys have any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant here? Great, if you would please make your way to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. My name is Max Vitalson, 675 Ponte de Leon Ave, Northeast, Atlanta, Georgia.
So Mr. Stops has provided us kind of a summary or overview of what the variance request is. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes. First off, thank you for allowing me to present today, and Mr. Stops has been very helpful kind of coordinating this. When we were looking at the property, the neighboring existing boarding facility at 1763 had 2 conditions: no outside boarding at any time, and then that 1 dog would be allowed outdoors at one time, supervised. And as Mr. Stobbs mentioned, there's been some more learnings related to that facility, and we've actually have more conditions in this request. One that was not added to the 1763 conditions was to be fully insulated. This concept, Dogtopia, there's actually 6 of them in Atlanta, many of which have received variance approvals for as close to 20 feet to residential. We invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in soundproofing. The concept is designed to be neighborhood friendly and not your typical kennel that's disruptive for the neighborhood, but to offer an amenity for pet parents. Has great curb appeal, has an app for pet parents to view cameras and book appointments. So we believe it's a little bit of an elevated concept. And secondly, I would just like to say the condition of not having an outdoor run, we're agreeable to all the conditions except not allowing us to have an outdoor run. I think just wouldn't set us up for success as a business, especially considering that the location 2 doors down has an outdoor run. And I think as someone who operates multiple daycare facilities, if there's been disturbances from the outdoor run, clearly they're not abiding by the 1 dog being supervised outside at a time, because again, across our 6 locations with outdoor as well, 1 dog at a time is not going to be a neighborhood disturbance. It's going to be a pack of dogs. So we're amenable to all of those other conditions, except just denying the outdoor, I think, wouldn't necessarily be fair. And I'd also add that this location to the west of it is commercial, to the south of it's commercial. We do have a residential lot to our east, but the existing daycare boarding facility has residences on either side. So we're actually further away. And I think it's a little bit of undue hardship to, not allow the outdoor run, assuming we abide by the other parameters of supervising 1 dog at a time. And we're going to invest a bunch of dollars into insulating the facility, which we don't believe the other location's done. And I know that's the staff recommendation, and if this is better to be tabled till the next meeting, happy to do that. I just want to make it clear that, we're agreeable to all the conditions outside of the, lack of outdoor.
Okay. Mr. Stops, can I ask you a question? The other property that's being referenced here, before I open up to the public hearing, it's in a residential, but I'm guessing it didn't need a variance because it met the distance requirements to the residential?
It did need a variance for the
It did,
residential.
okay. Do you guys have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I was just curious if you're agreeable to only allowing 1 dog outside that has to be supervised, what is the are you saying that you feel like you need that outdoor dog run to allow that one dog out? Or what's the,
Yeah, I think.
just, I mean, I guess explain to me why you would push back on that
Yes,
request.
sir. So, for safety reasons, we don't actually walk dogs at any of our locations on a leash. That's what pet parents do, but us as staff will allow them to have some off-leash time in the outdoor run, that will have a fence and be safe for the dogs so that, you know, they can be supervised but not on a lead. So we wouldn't have that opportunity to allow any off-leash supervised play without the outdoor.
Additional questions? No? Okay. Is there anyone here, this is a public hearing, if there's anyone here who'd like to speak in favor or against, if you'd like to come forward and state your name for the record? Let the record reflect there's no one here to speak on public comment. With that, gentlemen? Gentlemen? Do you guys have a motion? I'd like to entertain one if you guys have something you'd like to. Okay, you may have a moment. Sure, please approach.
I'd just like to say if more time is needed, we'd prefer to table it so that we can further discuss the outdoor if that's necessary. I know maybe an indication of that is not allowed, but
Okay.
happy to come back on the 11th if that's better.
Thank you. Gentlemen, did you hear the applicant? To summarize, the applicant has offered up that he would be amenable to a tabling if more discussions needed about the outdoor run.
Just, I don't want to, get approved with the full conditions without being, transparent about just the outdoors needed. And if, happy to send more materials or discuss in between then, but if it's something that we can vote on today, excluding that condition, then,
Okay,
I understand.
thank you.
Thank you. Motion to table variance request V22-074, allow boarding facility with 200 feet of residential property, land lot 632 on .41 acres, 1717 Spring Street. Max Fiedelson, applicant.
This item has been properly moved and seconded. If you would, please vote.
And
Did you want to include the date certain?
yeah, I mean, I think we can definitely do this in January on the condition that Mr. Fiedelson is able to provide some detailed plans of what that outdoor run might look like.
Okay. Do we
Is that
need to amend
possible?
the motion on that?
So there's actually an existing child daycare there. So that outdoor area exists. We would just want to increase the height of the fence. To
Well, we
obviously-
just tabled it, so we really don't need to even be talking about it right
No,
now.
I wouldn't.
We'll meet with you after the meeting, if that's okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
hang on here.
Okay. This item has been tabled by a vote of 3-0, and to move forward to the January 11th, 2023 meeting, which is the next meeting of this board. Okay. Moving on to item 2H, 2022-615. This is a public hearing and a variance request, V22-075, to allow an increase in impervious coverage to 46.3% on land lot 313, 0.45 acres at 3967 Manson Avenue. Applicant is Christopher Bunt. And just as a note, we do have two items at the same address. We'll have to take each of them separately, just for procedural reasons, but Joey, you can either summarize both in the same one if you'd like, and then we'll just take them by hearing and vote separately. Okay? Mr. Stops.
This is, the subject property is 3967 Manson Avenue. They're requesting two variances to allow an increase in impervious coverage to 46.3% and to allow a 6-foot wooden privacy fence in the front yard of a corner lot. The applicant is proposing to build a pool and associated patio and decking that would increase the impervious coverage from the maximum allowable at 35% to 46.3%. The city engineer has reviewed the application and believes the stormwater management proposed will mitigate any impact to adjacent properties and reduce it back down to that 35% maximum. Also, they are proposing a 6-foot wooden privacy fence along the property line. Because of the pool, it requires a fence of at least 4 feet, but generally on corner lots, people want to do a 6-foot wooden privacy fence. We have no issues with that location. It won't impact any site visibility. I've had communication with the builder on Mockingbird Lane that's building there. He has no issues with the variances. So we're recommending approval of both with the one condition that it be conditioned upon substantial compliance with the site plan submitted with the variance application.
Thank you, Mr. Stobbs. So the Mockingbird Lane property is it adjoins this property, correct? Or is it adjacent to it?
It's just adjacent to it. The side of the fence is on Mockingbird Lane, and so it's
Okay.
the next house.
Okay, thank you. Members of the board, do you guys have any questions for staff?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Is the applicant here? If you would please come forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Brittany Bunt. I'm at 3967 Manson Ave.
Wonderful, thank you for being here. So Mr. Stobbs has provided a background. First, we're going to take the variance request on the impervious coverage. So that's the first one we're discussing. Do you guys have anything to add additionally?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We plan to follow the plans.
Okay. The next thing is he has read a standard condition that's with everything. Is that something you're familiar with and you're comfortable abiding by that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone here who'd like to speak in favor or against this item, if you would please make your way to the podium. Seeing no one coming to do public comment, I would entertain a motion on item 2H.
Motion to approve request V22-075, allow an increase in impervious coverage to 46.3%, to lot 3967 Manson Avenue, Christopher Bunt.
Second.
This item has been properly moved and seconded. If you would please vote. Okay. Item 2H, the impervious coverage one, has been approved by a vote of 3-0. We're now going to take item 2I, which is 2022-616, a public hearing variance request, V22-076, to allow a 6-foot wooden privacy fence in a front yard of land lot 313, 0.45 acres at 3967 Manson Avenue. The applicant, again, is Christopher Bunt. Mr. Stobbs has already provided us the background, but do you guys have any questions for staff about this item? Okay. Do you guys, as the applicants, have anything additional to add about the fence?
No.
Okay. This is a public hearing. If there's anyone here who'd like to speak in favor or against, if you would please make your way to the podium. Let the record reflect there's no one here to speak on this item. And with that, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve request V22-076, allow a 6-foot wooden privacy fence in front yard of corner lot, land lot 313, located at 3967 Manson Avenue, Christopher Bunt.
Second.
This item has been properly moved and seconded. If you would please vote. Item 2I has been approved by a vote of 3-0. Thank you guys for being here. Have a great rest of your day and a good holiday. All right, item 2J and 2K. Again, similarly, we have items that are for the same property, so we're going to take them separately. The first one is 2J, 2022-618. This is a public hearing and variance request for V22-077 to allow additional accessory structure, land lot 556, 0.46 acres, 1424 Catherine Rose Lane. The applicant is Joseph Winters. Mr. Stobbs, will you provide us the background?
Subject property is 1424 Catherine Rose Lane. Applicant is requesting 2 variances to allow an additional accessory structure and to allow a 6-foot wooden privacy fence in a front yard on a corner lot. The subject property has a 77 square foot shed on the property, and the applicant is proposing to build a pool. Therefore, they need a variance to allow a second accessory structure. Additionally, there is a fence along the property line on Pine Tree that's already there. Due to the height of the fence, it needs a variance. That was never done by the builder, so we've asked the applicant to include that in their application. There has been an adjoining property owner along Pine Tree that does not have any issues with the fence per se, but wants to discuss with the city possibilities of building a sidewalk along that property line. Just so for the record, I have printed more pictures in the staff memo that the board has with the subject property along Pine Tree. We've recommended approval with one condition, that it be conditioned upon substantial compliance with the site plan submitted with the variance application.
Thank you, Mr. Stops. Members of the board, do you guys have any questions for staff?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Is the applicant here? Great. If you would please come on up to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Good morning, Joe Winters, 1424 Catherine Rose Lane in Smyrna.
Great. Mr. Stobbs has provided us an overview of the variance requests that you're here for this morning. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions for the applicant?
No, ma'am.
There was a standard condition that Mr. Stobbs read, which will apply to both of your variances today, should they be approved. Is that something you're familiar with and you're comfortable with?
Yes.
Okay. This item is a public hearing. If there's anyone here who'd like to speak in favor or against, if you would please make your way to the podium. Seeing no one here to speak about public comment, I will entertain a motion on item 2J.
Motion to approve V 22-077, allow additional accessory structure on land lot 566 on .46 acres, 1424 Catherine Rose Lane, Joseph Winters applicant.
Second.
This item has been properly moved and seconded. If you would please vote. Item 2J is approved by a vote of 3-0. Moving on to 2K. Item 2K is 2022-620, public hearing and variance request for V22-078, allow a 6-foot wooden privacy fence in a front yard on a corner lot, land lot 556, 0.46 acres, 1424 Catherine Rose Lane. Applicant is Joseph Winters. Mr. Stobbs has already provided us the background. Is there anything additional you'd like to add about the fence? Any questions for staff or the applicant?
Ma'am.
Again, the standard condition applies to this one as well. You're comfortable with that and ready to proceed if this variance is approved?
Correct.
Okay. This item is a public hearing. If there's anyone who'd like to speak in favor or against, please make your way to the podium. Let the record reflect there's no one here to speak in public comment. Therefore, I would entertain a motion, please.
Motion to approve request V22-078, allow 6-foot wooden privacy fence in front yard on corner lot, land lot 556, 0.46 acres located at 1424 Catherine Rose Lane, Joseph Winters.
Second.
This item has been properly moved and seconded. If you would please vote. Okay. This item 2K has been approved by a vote of 3-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Have
for
a
your
great
time.
day and a good holiday. Leads us to our final agenda item today. That's item 3A, MIN 2022-88, approval of the November 9th, 2022 License and Variance Board meeting minutes. May I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Item has been properly moved and seconded. If you would please vote. Item 3A is approved by a vote of 3-0. Unless there's any additional business to be brought before this body, we will consider this meeting adjourned at 10:49 a.m. Thank you.